Good morning. Today we are going to talk about strengthening our hands and our fingers. And so this is just going to be some fun ways that we can work on improving the muscles, the small muscles in our hand. They're called intrinsic muscles, and they're the tiny muscles that are responsible for precise, accurate movements of the fingers, which eventually lead the children to be able to have good control with writing and coloring. They are the building block of hand development, and we do a lot of them during OT. The key grasp that we're trying to have the children do is called a tripod grasp. And what that means is when you use your thumb, your index, and your middle finger to form kind of like a triangle. It's called a tripod grasp. And it's kind of like a pinching, but that's a mature grasp that we're aiming for. And then the other two fingers are tucked in the hand. A lot of times what you see with small children before these muscles in their hands are developed is that they'll hold it with a full fist, or they'll hold it like this. And so you always want to reposition the tool in their hand so that they hold it in a pinch in their fingers. And so these activities that we do actually help develop the muscle so that they can hold it correctly. So that's the goal. And one great way of doing that is using small pieces of crayon to color. And that's why I always break my crayons in half and the kids have to use these small pieces, because it's impossible to fist those. They have to hold them in their fingers, so it encourages the tripod grasp so that they can use their fingers to color. So that is one of the things we do every week in therapy, is color with small crayons. So what we're going to do though, the other thing with crayons is that they add a resistance to coloring so that the children can actually feel their fingers working. Whereas with a marker, it's just so easy. The strokes are so smooth and easy that they don't get that proprioceptive input, especially when they start forming letters. So I really do recommend using crayons more than markers at home. So the thing with to build these muscles in your hand is that you have to use small manipulatives, and they can be choking hazards. So number one thing is you have to supervise your child when you do this stuff. Number two is you want to have them seated at a table. The best way is to either have put them in a high chair or in a booster seat up at the surface where you eat. And this allows them also to increase their attention for the activity. The other thing is you just want to embed these kind of things in their play so that it's fun, because kids like to learn through play, and if it's fun, they'll do it. Another thing you want to do is repetition is the key for learning and success and development. So you want to do activities over and over again because the children don't get bored with them. We get bored with them, but the kids really actually like repetition, and it actually helps them to increase the skill. So we're going to start with just some warm-ups, and a lot of times in OT we start with this just to get their hands warmed up. Just a little chant. It goes, open them, shut them, open them, shut them, give a little clap. Open them, shut them, open them, shut them, get them in your lap. So again, it just adds some movement, gets blood coming to the fingers, helps their hands to warm up. Another thing we do is we just take each finger to the thumb and then stretch. And to do it, I usually just say things like, your pointer finger is going to kiss the thumb, tall finger kiss. And so this is a really good skill to get each finger working individually, is to touch to the thumb and stretch. And so that's another exercise that we do. And then of course you can have just a little ball where they can squeeze it. Let's count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, it just gets the blood to the fingers, gets the fingers working. So last week we talked about Play-Doh. There's a couple things that help the strengthening the hands with Play-Doh. And this is a quick review because I showed them to you last week. But you're just gonna, roll the snakes, and after you have the snakes, the pinching motion. So you just can go down and do pinching, and it actually helps increase the strength in your fingers. And again, you can switch which finger the child uses. So pinching Play-Doh. The other thing is hiding small things in the Play-Doh, such as these beads. Again, small, so they can't do it without your supervision because you don't want them to choke. But after you hide a couple beads in the dough, they actually have to pinch and move the dough to find the bead. So it's a good strengthening activity for their hand. Another activity that I like to do with the kids is toothpicks and styrofoam. And so what we do is just a piece of styrofoam, you get the packaging, it's packaging material, and I like to put it on a vertical surface because it helps get the wrist into a good position. But basically what you do is you have a piece of paper up here and they're going to poke toothpicks into the paper. So normally what I do is I have them use like mini markers. So we practice positioning the marker correctly in their hand. I'll tell them, okay, use your pinching fingers, pinch, and I help them to hold it correct. Then they can do a trace, and then we have to put the cap back on. So opening and taking the cap off and on, and then we do like 5 or 6 different colors. So they have to open, they have to position, then they have to do the tracing. So we go through and do about 5 different colors of that, and then we get toothpicks out. Now the key to the toothpicks is, again, you want them to use that pinch or grasp, and then they have to push it through the styrofoam so it takes a little bit of pressure, a little bit of resistance. So this is a wonderful activity to help them to gain a little bit of hand strength. Now, what you don't want is them to hold it incorrectly, arm up, or try to do it with a full fist. You really want them to use the pincher finger, so it's kind of up to the parent to make sure they're holding it the correct way between the thumb and the fingers. And then they can just put toothpicks in the whole way. And kids love doing this activity. This is always a real winner activity in therapy. So that's toothpicks and styrofoam. Another thing is medicine droppers. This is another fun activity. If you have one of these in your cupboard, again, they have to squeeze it to work, and you might have to help them to do it because it can be kind of tricky. You have to squeeze it in the water and then open up while it's in the water and it fills. And then to add a little fun to it, I can sometimes add your primary colors to the water, and then they can mix colors, and it just makes it really a fun activity. So once you have your 3 colors, then you can do your mixing. So what happens when we take blue and then we add some yellow? It changes to green. So you can just kind of do a little fun activity like that. So here's yellow, and we add some red. What do we get? We made orange. But all the time they're doing the squeezing of the medicine dropper. And again, you want to make sure they use the thumb, the index, and the pointer. You don't want to encourage an improper grasp. You want to encourage the tripod grasp. So that's always a fun activity. Of course, I get my table wet here. And then another thing is just some pop beads. I put them in a small container, so they have to practice twisting to get the items out. So it's kind of a double activity. But I have these small pop beads, and they have to pinch the beads to steady them and then push them together. And so it really takes a lot of finger strength to do this. They have to stabilize and push. And again, you can order these on Amazon, or just sometimes at Walmart or at the dollar store, they have things like this. But again, it's a small item that they have to manipulate with their fingers. And the last thing I wanted to show you today was tongs. To use little tongs, these are little strawberry haulers. I got them from a kitchen store. You pull out the stem of the strawberry, but they can again use that pincher grasp, thumb and the 2 fingers to pinch. And then they can open and close them to pick up small toys and put in a container. And you can also have them cross the midline of the body. Sometimes I hold the containers up so they have to reach up, but the idea is to use that pincher grasp to put them in. You can also have different containers to sort colors. You can use small erasers or any kind of small pom-pom, small toy that they can pick up with the different tongs. And I have another set of tongs as well. So these are just some ideas you could do to help increase hand strength, and I hope you have some fun with it. Have a good day.